Okay, so if you go into the Pokemon prototype and you actually go into the debug mode, you can actually do random fights, like as if it's happening in game, and you can generate a team of Pokemon and it generates their stats. Now, I was actually able to use this method to find some of the prototype Pokemon stats that I've found so far. And in this case, we're going to talk about Gorochu. I think if my math is right, it's really no different than Alolan Raichu's stats. It's not exactly the same, but it's, I wouldn't be surprised that they kind of took that and applied it to something else. But basically, some of it's a little bit different, but it's for Gen 1 it's pretty good though. Um, Okay, so basically how this works is you have the base stats of the species of the Pokemon, and then you also had like the DVs, which go from 0 to 15 in Gen 1 and Gen 2, and then you have the EVs, which were the effort values, which can be 252 all the way across. Now, if you don't know, they changed this in Gen 3, and you can only have a total of, I think it's like a 510 per stat, and then it's like, or total EVs, but you can only divide, to make it even more specific, they have like the natures, but the natures are not really specific in this case. And you have the, like, you can only have up to 252 per stat, and then there's a +4. So you, again, 210, 510, I believe is what it is. If you play competitive play, you know how this gets kind of confusing, but but it's how you play Pokemon. But in Gen 1 and 2, though, EVs could be maxed out at 252 for all stats, and special shared the same thing for special attack and special defense, if that makes sense to you. And then after Gen 3, or up until Gen 3, and then and beyond, then they changed it to 0 to 31 for the IVs. So basically, as far as, so it's better to get perfect stats in Gen 1 than would be in Gen 2 and or Gen 3 and beyond. So here we go. Here I'll try to explain this. So Raichu's stats are just a little bit lower than Gorochu's, but Gorochu is obviously what Raichu would have evolved into. But if the prototype data is right, what are its stats? Well, okay, so this is what I was able to come up with. Okay, so Raichu, not counting adding EVs, which would just be a +63 with 252 in that stat, because because if you take 63 and times it by 4, that's 252. And I believe that's the reason why they didn't want to round it up to 64, because the game would crash after a 256 value or something like that. So it only goes up to 255 in an 8-bit era. So they went down to 252 as the closest they could get. It's divisible by 4s. So, which means the number goes into it that many times. So it's 63 times 4. So that means that every single stat in Pokemon can be added 63 more times, plus 63. So, okay, so Raichu, like Gorochu's, if it had a 15 value, the highest I could get for HP was 290. So if 290 is the case, then it basically could have had like something like 353 attack or HP, which is a lot. That's actually pretty good for an electric Pokemon. So yeah, so 290 plus 53 or 63, and then it's 353. That would have been interesting. Okay, so for physical attack, I was able to get up to 225 plus 63, which would be 280, 288 or something like that. Not bad. For special, I think it was 235, so 63 plus that would have been 298. 298, yeah, just shy of 300, even if it's just a little low. So speed for Gorochu was 275, I believe, plus 63 would have been like, I think 338, if my math is right. 338, 35, yeah, 338, around there, if it's not. I was gonna say 348, but I made that mistake earlier. So, okay, so it's around there. And then for its physical defense, I do believe it was 165 plus 160 or plus 63, so that would have been 228, I believe. So if that is correct, then that should be what its base stats were. Its total stats with its EV training maxed out. Now, the thing is, I don't know off the top of my head what those base stats numbers would be. I'd have to reverse it. I will probably update it a little bit. But this should just kind of give it a little, just kind of a little example of what Gorochu stats are at the most that I've seen. So if anybody's been interested in that, well, now you should know. So I'm gonna do this with the other Pokemon, and I'm gonna make separate videos for it. But this is something I've been trying to figure out for a while. So now that I have an accurate way of doing this, hopefully this can answer some questions that maybe we can figure out what Pokemon these were at one point and what they are now.